The fans and the game day experience certainly separate college football, and we've got a guy right here who knows it better than just about anybody else. Mike Barker from College Football Campus Tour, joining us to discuss his platform here on YouTube and his travels across the country. Mike, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Mark. Thank you very much for having me.
Folks, please like the video, share the videos out on social media to help us build the channel, and, of course, subscribe right here. And while you're at it, after this conversation, you'll probably head on over to CFB Home and subscribe over there as well, and find Mike on Twitter. You can see his Twitter handle on the banner below. So, Mike, I'm going to leave it wide open to you to explain what you do, because you are a well-traveled individual, all in pursuit of college football experiences.
That's correct. So CFB Campus Tour is basically me traveling across the country, seeing games at every stadium. There's 130 FBS schools, and I've been doing it since 2017. I'm at 109 of 130, and this fall I plan to knock out the last 21 stadiums to have seen a game at all 130 Division I stadium or FBS stadiums, and it's been great meeting people all across the country, tailgating. I kind of am a mini version of College Game Day, except I'll tailgate with you, I'll hang out with you at the game, I'll tweet live during the game. So I try to make myself as accessible as possible.
So since this has been going on since 2017, so the impressive number is the 130 out of 130, but many of these visits could have been in the middle of June just to visit the stadium. But what is extremely impressive is 109 out of 130 that you have attended for games, and you're looking to hit the perfect 130 for 130 at the end of this season.
Right. Yeah, it's, the scheduling is the key. You'll have some conferences like the MAC. They play MACtion on Tuesday, Wednesday. You got Fun Belt that plays Wednesday, Thursday games. ACC, Pac-12, they always put in Thursday, Friday games. So when the schedule is set up perfectly, you can hit a Thursday, a Friday, a Saturday, maybe even a Wednesday game. The opener Labor Day is Notre Dame at Florida State on a Sunday. So if you could stack games, you can do it. The other part I do with my total is if a team gets a new stadium, then I knock them off the list and I got to add them back. So Alabama, Birmingham has a new stadium this year. Hawaii, the Aloha Bowl just got condemned. That one doesn't count. There's UNLV is now playing in the Raiders Stadium in Las Vegas. San Diego State's building a new stadium. So, the total is higher and then it gets knocked down. But it's part of the fun just to, you want to hit the finish line, but you don't want to be done. You want to keep going with other goals.
So, Mike, I'm guessing that you're going to have a couple dozen examples of what I'm about to ask you, but just give me one example of maybe a Tuesday through Saturday run that you've made from city to city to get to a number of college football locations.
Yeah, so I can think of, maybe a Tuesday in Toledo, a Wednesday in Akron, a Thursday at Pitt, a Friday at NC State, and maybe a Saturday somewhere in Texas like Baylor. So Southwest Airlines, I'm on the app all the time. I got the points, I got the credit card, and getting points with my rent payment and all that. So yeah, it's a zigzag across the country, but it's doable. The price of things like rental cars and everything has gone up, made it a little bit more cost prohibitive. But if you plan it out ahead of time, you can make it happen.
Got Mike Barker on the line. You can see his Twitter handle right there. I suggest that you head on over to Twitter and follow him there at CFB Campus Tour, and also at CFB Home, where Mike is interviewing various fans, writers, mascots, all sorts of, he's open to any interviews connected to college football and a particular fan base and a particular program. So if you would have told me those numbers about your rate of what has been perfection to date in terms of getting to the stadium and will be perfection at the end of this particular football season, I would have thought that you'd been doing this for 20 years.
All right.
Like, to do this since 2017, and especially 2020 being what it was, I'm trying to figure out how in the world that you got to so many games, and the planning must have been very intricate, because we're talking about 2017, 18, 19. We're talking about 3 football seasons in which you've been able to get to 109 stadiums for games.
Yeah, I call it the Blitzkrieg version. You know, we're doing it as fast as possible. The farther you go, the harder it gets. In the beginning, every stadium is going to be new. So, you know, if there's 4 games, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and a Wednesday, there's 4. And if there's 15 college football Saturdays, you know, 4 times 15 is 60. You can stack them up early. As you go, it gets harder and harder. And last year, you brought up last year with COVID, a lot of schools didn't allow fans. North Carolina allowed 7%. I paid $725 for my ticket to go see North Carolina versus Wake Forest. I mean, so, but the reason I did it, it was the only game on my schedule. There was a new stadium that day. I wanted to save Auburn for the Iron Bowl this year versus Alabama to have it be number 130. But that Saturday versus Tennessee last year was the only one. You know, this Saturday or opener Saturday, Navy's the only one. So there's places I want to go, but the schedule is restrictive. I kind of joke that once I get done with this year, the shackles will come off, because right now there's opener Boise State at UCF, and everyone's, you got to come. What is your tour about if you don't even go to that one? Well, I got to go to Temple at Rutgers on a Thursday because it's the only one that's available. So in some ways, you know, I'm fortunate and blessed to be able to be doing this. But right now, the schedule is dictating to me more than I'm dictating to it. So once we hit 130 at the end of this year, I can go anywhere, and it will be nice to have that accomplishment combined with that freedom.
Mike, I'm sure that you're asked on a regular basis, best stadium, worst stadium, best fan base, worst fan base, all that sort of thing. So we're going to bypass that, because I'm gonna ask more along the lines of just give us some perspective on some unique stadiums, whether it be the location, near water, or downtown setting, whatever it is, in terms of a couple stadiums that stand out to you, just in terms of a unique quality to that stadium, and then some experiences that you've had with fan bases and with you know, the individual programs that are a bit unique as well.
Yeah, well, back to your first part of your question, we have a Twitter contest going right now where we're voting for the best stadium in college football. So there's a bunch of voting polls, and the teams are matched up. So hopefully fans could decide, because I can't decide myself. But some of the best stadiums I've been to, you know, I grew up I live in California, and I spent a lot of time going to old stadiums. I went to Candlestick Park. I went to the Oakland Coliseum, went to Dodger Stadium, I went to Jack Murphy Stadium. Something about that kind of put those older college football stadiums in front for me as well. So I love the Sun Bowl in El Paso. It's about 10 or 15 minutes from the U.S.-Mexico border. I think the elevation is over 4,000 feet. The roadside bleachers is carved out of the mountain, and it's just a beautiful place to take in a football game. The Sun Bowl is actually the second longest running bowl game behind the Rose Bowl. So I always love going to El Paso for that. The Sun Bowl is New Year's Eve every year. I always bring up Kidd Brewer Stadium at Appalachian State. I call it Field of Dreams. That place is out in the mountains, and there's trees, and it's just beautiful. And they're doing a lot of stadium improvements over there. Tiger Stadium, LSU. My dad played there when he played as an opponent. It was one of those payday games, and he went to LSU and lost 34-0. And he told me he missed a tackle versus one of the LSU running backs, and the stadium ground shook, and it just, you know, rattled every bone in his body. So when I got to go there, they beat Georgia, and they actually rushed the field, and that was a great game. And then one more I can think of is I love Texas A&M. The 12th man is a real thing. They have cadets on the ground sending up arm signals to the fans and the students, and they're on the second and third level above one of the sidelines, and you can feel them on top of the game. I went when they played Clemson. It was Trevor Lawrence's first action in college football. They were number 1, top 5, and it was 29-27, and Texas A&M missed a 2-point conversion. Otherwise, that would have been going to overtime. That was the most impressive, dominating crowd I've seen, and the stadium, I mean, that thing is gigantic too. So those are some that just come off the top of my head.
28-26, if I remember right, just because scores stick to my head.
You're right.
When we look at so I'm just envisioning you as you're giving us a vision, an image of certain very iconic college football settings, Texas A&M, Death Valley at LSU, and so forth. And then I'm also picturing, so you just being packed in with a ton of fans and a raucous college football environment that we picture. But then you're obviously going through Conference USA and the MAC on Tuesday and Wednesday nights, and I picture you sitting, trying to maybe interact with a number of people and with 2,500 people in the middle of Toledo or Akron, Ohio, or somewhere for a college football game on a Tuesday or Wednesday night, and that experience as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's, I went to the whiteout at Penn State and against Ohio State in 2018, and I couldn't even sit forward. I had to sit sideways. The bathroom was not an option. So as much as that crowd is electric, there are way more games with the scenario you're talking about with light crowd, weekday night. I take a photo at every game. I call it the shot of the night. It's kind of a diagonal view of the stadium. And I was at Akron, I want to say in 2019, and it was, probably 12 degrees, snowing. You couldn't go in the top bleachers because the snow, it was too dangerous. And I took a photo, and you could see the Speedway gas station in the background of the stadium. And people joked on Twitter, there's more people at the Speedway than there is at the stadium. I can think of two stadiums. One was Rice and the other was the Alamo Dome, where I took photos, or actually a panoramic video of the upper deck, and there was not one person there. And so those are, you get to, like you said, be more personal with fans, go and talk to people. One more I can think of was I went to UMass at Connecticut, and that was a nor'easter. And I remember taking the video, and I think it was the band and me and the players, and that was it. So, I do love the vibe. I mean, COVID actually, showed you the contrast between what a great crowd can do and the small time venues with the smaller crowds. You got to appreciate everything. And that's what I try to do. There's, beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
And that's another factor in this. Even though college football is played during a time of year that's fairly safe from a weather standpoint, it obviously creeps then into late November, into December. And I forgot about your opportunities during bowl season. You mentioned the Sun Bowl stadiums to get to some other games during bowl season. But I got to think that, you do whatever you need to do. As you just pointed out, the slate was clear for the first season, and then you got to start putting the puzzle pieces together after that, to where I would certainly be headed to places like Connecticut and Minnesota in September, where it's beautiful out, and then saving the November months for the SEC and the Pac-12. Right. But at the same time, you do what you need to do, I guess.
Well, it's I say September weather in college football is hot everywhere. October is perfect, and then November it starts to get cold in a lot of places. This spring, there was a special FCS season, and I did in the end of February I did a back-to-back triple header, North Dakota State up there, and I turned on the heater on my windshield of the rental car, and it just cracked. I mean, that's how cold it was. And I'm like, why am I here? But, like you said, you're going to go chase games. So when you can schedule things out right and be picky with the schedule, ideally you're going to do that. But I mean, I'm a California guy, and I go somewhere and I have gloves on, and then I take my hand out of the glove to try to shoot photos with my phone, and then my phone is numb, and then it's over, So you just got to deal with the elements. I joke that, everybody talks about, oh, football weather is great. Well, football weather is great when you're playing football. When you're watching a game, you're just sitting in cold weather on a metal bench with not enough clothes, not enough blankets. And, it's not the fun, glamorous thing that gets made out to be.
Absolutely. Football weather is fun in two locations. Yes, exactly. When you're playing football, you used to love playing in the snow, in the sleet, in the mud, whatever, because the adrenaline's pumping and you don't usually get cold. It's got to be like a really incredibly cold for you to be cold. Or number two, it's fun to watch on TV on your couch to see, those first snowfalls of the football season, to see, the guys are out there slipping and sliding and playing in the snow. Yeah, that's fun to watch. But to sit there, especially probably in some of those cold, rainy nights with nobody around, where you're sitting by yourself in a section like we just kind kind of outlined in some of these games. But it's
I
the
can think of
experiences
one.
range all over the place.
I
Yeah.
think I can think of one in particular. Last year was Louisiana at App State, and it was a Thursday night game. And it was, I mean, it was so cold and rainy. There was nowhere to hide. I tried to hide under the bleachers. The bleachers were leaky. You know, there was more people in the bathroom with the heater vents than they were watching the game. And it went into overtime. And it was App State made a field goal, or Louisiana made a field goal, and then App State had like a 22-yard field goal to send it into a second overtime. And I'm sitting there praying that the guy misses, and he shanked it, and I got to go home and run to my rental car, and I couldn't have been more happy. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Got Mike Barker on the line to talk about his platform, College Football Campus Tour. So basically follow him on Twitter, and you get the story by story trip through his journey touring the country. And again, he's hit 130 of 130 FBS stadiums. He has made the game day experience 109 out of 130, and he's going to wrap it up this season, but he's got to catch up with all the new stadiums. And actually, you surprised me with the number of new stadiums that are out there, because we really think of, like, it seems like these baseball teams are recycling stadiums about every 20 years, but in college football, it seems like these places have been standing for forever, but more new stadiums than I would have anticipated.
Yeah, so I mean, I've seen a game at Sam Boyd, which is UNLV. So Idaho used to be an FBS, but they went down to FCS. You know, Ladd Peebles in for South Alabama, that was a stadium. They just got a new one. Hancock Whitney last year. Legion Field was the home for UAB. They're building a new stadium opening in downtown Birmingham on October 2nd. San Diego State has always played in Qualcomm Jack Murphy. That thing is getting knocked down. They played last year at a soccer stadium in Carson, California. Their new stadium will be finished by the opener of 2022. And earlier I mentioned that Aloha Stadium just got condemned. They're going to be playing on a small 9,000 seat complex on campus with really no concrete plan on what to go for. So the total is actually higher, but you just knock it down. But yeah, I mean, in college, you know, if you have the premier venues like, you know, Bryant-Denny or something where these things are cathedral, Oklahoma, they've built and expanded over the years, they're never going to get replaced, like Wrigley Field or Fenway Park in baseball. But in college, you know, if you're a program, if you're a FCS that came up to FBS, or you're a G5 and you've hit success, you're looking to expand your facilities, because facilities attract coaches and they attract players. So yeah, it's an ongoing process. I have a new rule that is, whenever a stadium is being opened, I'm going to be there. So UAB has a difficult schedule this year. They're playing an opener at a neutral site against Jacksonville State at the Crampton Bowl, and then they have 3 straight road games because their stadium's not going to be ready till the beginning of October. So I'll be there. But that's my new rule. And, you know, we got San Diego State and Hawaii building new stadiums. So I'm just going to have to force myself to go to Hawaii and San Diego to watch their openers.
Well, Mike, I hope you're keeping a list as well of all the condemned, defunct stadiums, so then you've got this long list of ones that you've hit that no longer exist. So that adds another kind of statistic to your trail.
Right. Absolutely. Go ahead.
And then I was just going to say, when you bring up Legion Field, I've been there. A lot of these old college football stadiums are nothing more than just massive glorified high school stadiums, where they're just kind of like 2 huge masses of cement stands, and then the concessions and the bathrooms underneath the stands. And that's pretty much what they are. So it's got to be fun to go back to the new stadium, because even at the lower levels of college football, I'm sure that the amenities are there, and they've just made them more user friendly, and the passageways and everything is just made to be so much nicer looking and more user friendly.
And the other part too is there's the optics of having a 60,000 seat stadium and only filling it with 23,000. It just doesn't look good. And so all these new stadiums, San Diego State is going from 65,000. I mean, Jack Murphy hosted Super Bowls, and now they're going down to 35. Legion Field, you mentioned, a giant stadium. They're going down to a smaller downtown protective stadium in Birmingham. So Rice Stadium hosted, I think, Super Bowl either 3 or 5 back in the day. And that's a stadium that, I mean, it's hard to fill that up. So I think that, if you can make the crowd size look big, if you can, like you mentioned, improve all the amenities, get the suites, get all the concessions up, and then provide maybe a hard to get ticket, instead of knowing at game time you can just walk up to the ticket office at Legion Field and grab a ticket. Well, now if you're a Protective Stadium in downtown Birmingham, if you didn't get a ticket, you're going to be going on the secondary market and paying 2 or 3 times face value. So all those things, I think, as I mentioned, the success of the program is going to improve the facilities and hopefully create a premium experience for fans.
Mike, you could win a lot of trivia contests with what you just mentioned. Yes, Rice Stadium hosted the '74 Super Bowl, Dolphins, Vikings.
There you go.
Yes, can you imagine Rice Stadium in Houston? This is great stuff. I encourage everybody to head over to Twitter and follow Mike at CFB Campus Tour. And then also he does a number of interviews on a regular basis, 1 or 2 interviews a week, scanning a number of college football programs. And those are found on CFB Home right here on YouTube. Anything we've missed, Mike?
Well, you mentioned CFB Home. So CFB Home has over 50,000 followers on Twitter. And we're trying to launch a YouTube channel at CFB Home, same thing. And we're interested in highlighting all positive things college football. I'm just a component of the team. Coach Cooper, Shaler, Mike Ferguson, we're all working together. I personally just started an Instagram account too, so same tag at CFB Campus Tour. But, really, I just want to be with the fans. Like I said, college game day is a big thing, but you can't talk to Kirk Herbstreit. You can't go up to Desmond Howard. I come and I tailgate with people. I'll sit with you at the stands. I went to a game the other day or earlier this spring, and somebody was tweeting about how the punter was doing terrible. And I tweeted at him, the wind was very significant and was knocking the punts down. So you can get that inside information too. So anyways, I love it. I'm really grateful for this platform. You and I talked last week on the phone, and you gave me some great advice. So I really appreciate it. And, for anybody that enjoys stadium travel and college football, please follow me and CFB Home on all our accounts.
So if I've got this straight, Temple Rutgers, game number 1.
Actually, week 0, the week before, is going to be the highly anticipated matchup of UTEP at New Mexico State. So, so week 0, you have to get a special exemption to be able to play, whether it's travel or for the following week. And so August 28th, we're going to do UTEP at New Mexico State. And then the first full week 1, Thursday at Rutgers, Friday at Virginia Tech, Saturday at Navy, Sunday at Florida State.
That is sweet. You've got college football fans salivating all over the place, wishing that they could be you. Well, it's wide open. You could be Mike. You could do it. So there is good with the bad, but it's sounds like an amazing journey, and with tons of stories that we haven't even been able to tap. So, Mike, thanks so much for stopping by. And again, we encourage everybody to follow Mike on Twitter and CFB Home right here on YouTube. Mike, we appreciate it. If I don't get a chance to talk to you, have a great season, and you're welcome back anytime to tell us about your experiences.
I will. I'll be happy to come on every time. Thank you again for being generous with your time, and look forward to a great season with some full stadiums. We'll have a great change from 2020.